Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to our CHAR conference. We've just spent 1.5 very exciting hours. The groups have been very active and balanced, and I'm happy to invite 3 people here on stage, which is Emma Lucaresa of HELP, who will be reporting from the private sector session. Xiwen Li of MSF, she will be reporting and tell us what happened in the climate activist session. And Olivia Serdeczny will tell us all about the new developments in the collaboration between climate science and climate activism. Emma Lu, please get us started. What have you discussed in terms of the collaboration scenarios and hindrances with climate?
Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you for having us. What we discussed essentially during our activity, I want to say, is the advantages and challenges that arise when working with private corporations. So we have 3 key, let me see my notes, please. The advantages that we started off with that were presented by our lovely host are that the private sector brings innovation and the possibility to fail, since they don't have the same standards of accountability that humanitarian organizations have. We thought of some success stories with the private sector. Most of them were related to fast and flexible fundraising. It's important to distinguish the difference between contracting and actually raising funds. What really stood out was the fact that technology through private corporations can really be an enabler. One of the advantages, or one of the instances that were named here were, for example, making use of WhatsApp in Ukraine to spread information fast. Others include Thank you. The fact that private corporations can be suppliers quite effectively and have some sort of risk appetite that maybe conventional humanitarian organizations don't. Unfortunately, we could think of a lot more challenges, but that's not going to impede us from envisioning the good that can happen from those partnerships. A lot of that has to do with communication issues between both entities, especially in terms of ethics, but also objectives. When it comes to values, but also like the business side of things. Somebody said that sometimes we just don't speak the same language, which obviously can be a problem. Also, we want to mention white and greenwashing, which is obviously a great issue, and lack of transparency, and maybe also the lack of economic incentives for private corporations to go humanitarian. Yes, and when we thought or brainstormed what could work, we actually ended up with a bunch of questions, more than clear answers. But one of the conclusions, or one of the takeaways we had was that gradually starting partnerships would probably work best. We also stumbled over the question, like, to which extent is the private sector not already incorporated into humanitarian work? Because obviously most programs are already largely dependent on private actors. Yes, this is what we came up with. And I'm going to hand over to the next activity group.
So I don't remember most of the things in our group because there are so many great ideas, but we had a session on climate activism, and we started the session by actually thinking about what is the relation between humanitarian work and climate, and especially how do we actually work engaging activists together in our work. And we had 3 categories of discussion points where everyone will come up with different ideas. We had the individual responsibilities, like things that could be just something throwing out your trash or whatever, and comfort zone tendency, something that we feel like the current structure is not good enough, but why not? And then we also have, what is that? Power structure. Something power structure, something about the governmental power structure or any of the society power structure. So we had quite a lot of points from different people. We had 3 different teams, and there were some really interesting ideas that I have to say. I don't remember a lot of others, but there are some that were really interesting for some thoughts for everyone. One of them will be at the end of the day, maybe we don't need humanitarian actors anymore when things are completely localized and when we have enough local capacity on response instead of international humanitarian aid and sending aid towards places. And also we have people talking about there should be a limit of wealth for personal use and also maybe abolish the concept of inheritance. And also border was mentioned quite a lot by people as well. Do we need a border in the future? How does the citizenship, the idea works? Mm-hmm. Or how is this going to fasten the process of decolonization? Or how does decolonization actually function in a sustainable way? Of course, we also had a lot of things that's more on our personal level. For example, the transportation fee, public transportation, Deutsche Bahn should be cheaper and more reliable so we have more people using public transportation in the future. So yeah, there are quite a lot of great ideas, and if anyone has more interest, feel free to go to the site and read it yourself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, happy to report back from the climate science team, which was a great team. We had a great discussion, and thanks again for all the inputs. So we touched on a couple of things, shared experiences in interactions between the climate community and the humanitarian community, and a couple, through our discussion, different uses of climate science or points of interaction emerged. One was kind of the application of climate science to inform risk-based planning, so interventions planning or long-term strategy planning, where kind of climate science is the input to humanitarian actors. Then there was also a strong point on that the evidence base given by climate science strengthens the case of humanitarian actors, so kind of strengthen the advocacy by making it evidence-based, given a solid ground, or so perceived more solid ground. But also there was discussion, which I, as a blue dot climate person, think is very important, that it's not a one-way street. So it's not just humanitarians using climate science, but also climate scientists learning from the ground, from humanitarian actors, to improve their assumptions, their models, the planning of, or the suggestion or design of responses that they identify as responses to loss and damage in the adaptation or loss and damage sphere. So it's not a one-way street, but both sides can learn from each other. That was kind of the ideal scenario. And then we discussed a bit on the challenges, and one thing that we kind of struggled a bit to find the good word was, and I think we ended up with untranslatability or something, but it's basically, what does it mean? So you have high-level climate impact projections, huge uncertainties, different scales, long terms, and what does it mean on the ground? And that's, I think it's a big step, or multiple step of translation between global or climate science really and application on the ground to contextualize it. What does it mean for actors on the ground? How does it translate? So that's one of the challenges. And in terms of challenges, we had a couple of more. I won't be able to list them all from memory, but one thing was the politics of it. So both actors move in political spaces. Terms are used differently for different purposes. That there needs to be candid discussion, but also, I guess, mandates need to be respected. Yeah, the scale issue, of course, the actionability of climate science as silos. We used a couple of the buzzwords.
Yes.
Silos was definitely among them. We live in silos, we work in silos. Breaking them down isn't straightforward. Lots of advantages. Again, like I said, both ways thing. The humanitarian actors validating, improving really climate science with information from the ground, and kind of climate science, ideally climate proofing, planning, humanitarian planning in the longer term. In terms of the, what you call it, collaboration scenarios,
right.
We, one thing that emerged, which I personally really liked, was the use and the benefit of visuals, of kind of creative communication tools. Because one of the challenges is this translatability and different languages and understandings. And the use of visuals, and the Climate Center was one of the pioneers, or is, I personally really like the visuals as well, that's the universal language, so to speak. So without simplifying things too much or at all, visuals, cartoons, creative ways of communication as one way to communicate among both. Definitely the need, but also potential to start discussions early on, so not wait for climate science to produce the data that then doesn't mean anything for humanitarians, but really try and have them define the questions already, so climate science can respond to the needs. Basically, just always funding for these collaborations is, I think, something that any scenario needs. And then we also use the buzzword, which I learned, localization. So the need for climate science not to just sit in multi-thousand pages IPCC reports, but be really embedded in national long-term strategies and localized to give it to the ability to use climate data to the ground, which, from my perspective, necessitates both platforms that increase the accessibility of climate data and projections, but also the capacity to then use them. There will always be a level of complexity, and you just need to know how to use a certain platform. But basically, the localization of climate science for humanitarian actors was one of the scenarios where we also identified. Any big misses, shout out. Other than that, thanks again.
So thank you very much for our three rapporteurs. I think all three groups touched upon like crucial, essential issues that have been voiced earlier on the buzzword bingo, but also even in the title of our conference. So we subtitled the conference needs, narratives, and necessities. So you have been talking about, different languages and finding a common way to talk about things. Then we have the issue of values that started in the other groups, the possibility to fail. So there are certain sectors that have a broader range of failure than the humanitarian sector, for obvious and rightful reasons, allows itself. And I think one of the outcomes that combines all of us is the issue of localization. You might call it mutual aid and solidarity. So we have different words to talk about the same need that there is for the sector to be more local in a way. Another point that we asked you to talk a little bit about was, and how do we go on from here? So what happens next? Is there something that you thought about how the group can expand or follow up? Is there something that you can share with us on that front?
So I noted to my co-facilitator that we missed this bit because we're too engaged in the discussion. I personally exchanged a couple of emails with people that I'm interested in working on again. I hope the same happened as well, but I'm afraid we didn't truly deliver on that, to be very frank. Looks like I'm speaking for all.
You have to speak into the microphone.
Thanks to Pınar, we have a email list, so maybe we'll stay in touch and collaborate in the future, hopefully.
Yeah. So this is not only me checking if the groups did their work in the right way, but also engaging this in your minds that, we sit here, to exchange and to learn something, but also, to take it further. And this is something that we want for this conference, to live on a little longer and to value this beyond just, exchanging knowledge, but also, identifying the ideas that you have, things that made you uncomfortable. Look into it with your colleagues and go on and collaborate and take it further. So we try to make it other than your usual conference, and I hope we started with a small seed. It is up to you to make it worth the while, to take it with you and to make it flourish and get together, collaborate, and don't be frustrated about the way the world is, but make it better. Make your own sectors better, make your own organizations better, make your relationships better, and start it from there. So I want to thank all the people in the active sessions, but also the rapporteurs and the facilitators, Pınar, Okur, Sina, Kamala, Kaufmann, and Olivia Serdeczny, for organizing those sessions in such a beautiful way. I'm really happy, and I invite all of you to stay here on site in Berlin. What we have for you is a nice get-together, wine and dine, starting at in a couple of minutes to actually take it further. Because, as I've said multiple times today, it's not only about what you hear and see here on the panel, but it's about you and about what you have in your minds and in your hearts and exchanges with other people. And for this, we also organized this get together in the aftermath of the conference. So first of all, let's give a big round of applause for our rapporteurs. I'm really glad there's also, I've been notified, there's also the buzzword bingo, whoever filled in the buzzword bingo, and I guess the active sessions have also been an opportunity to do so. Please go to the front desk and you will receive your present. And for everyone else on site and online, please come back tomorrow. We have a full and very nice day tomorrow. Tomorrow I will not be the conductor of the day, but my dear colleague Ida Tami will take over the lead. So we will start 9:30 with hot takes from today. So someone will report, Abdullah Fahimi from the DGAP will report his 3 hot takes from today. And then we will get right into another uncomfortable topic, which is conflict, violence, and fragility and climate change, with 3 amazing speakers. And be on time, bring your lanyards, and collaborate with us even more. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot to Andrea for hosting also, and to the members of the chat. Thank you so much for organizing that and for hosting.
Thank you.